There comes a time in every believer's journey when the heavens seem silent, when prayers rise like incense but answers tarry. Days turn into months, months into years, and the promise feels like a distant echo. You have waited, you have labored, you have endured the weight of delay. But what if I told you that the delay was never denial? What if I told you that heaven has been orchestrating a divine shift in your favor, that the silence was not emptiness but divine strategy? Now the wait is over. The door that seemed sealed is about to open. The season of preparation is ending, and the season of manifestation is at hand. This is not an ordinary moment. This is a divine summons, a kingdom decree, a heavenly announcement. God is speaking, and His message is clear. Your waiting is over. Get ready for a major shift. There are moments in time when God moves suddenly. Moments when the things you have been believing for, praying for, weeping over, waiting on, suddenly align. The pieces fall into place. The winds of change begin to blow, and just like that, the shift happens. But before every great shift, God sends a word. Before deliverance, He declares freedom. Before breakthrough, He releases an announcement. And today, heaven's announcement is reaching your spirit. Your waiting is over. Do you sense it? The trembling in the spirit? The divine urgency, the movement in the atmosphere? It is not your imagination. The heavens are stirring because something is about to change in your life. Doors that resisted you are about to swing wide open. Battles that have drained you are about to come to an end. The pressure you have been under was never to break you, it was to prepare you. You were not being buried, you were being planted. And now the seed of your faith is breaking forth into harvest. You have been asking God, when? You have been saying, how much longer? You have felt stuck between the promise and the fulfillment, between the vision and the reality. But I need you to hear me today. God has not forgotten you. He has not abandoned what He spoke over your life. There is an appointed time for every divine plan, and your appointed time has come. What has been delayed is now being accelerated. What was once blocked is now being released. What seemed impossible is now becoming inevitable. Think of Joseph languishing in the prison cell, forgotten by men but remembered by God. One day a prisoner, the next a ruler. Think of David, anointed in obscurity, wandering the wilderness waiting for the throne. One day a fugitive, the next a king. This is how God moves. He does not shift gradually, He shifts suddenly. And when He moves, everything changes in an instant. The challenge, my friend, is not whether God is moving, it is whether you are ready. Because when the moment of divine shift arrives, hesitation can cost you everything. The children of Israel stood at the edge of the promised land, but some hesitated, doubted, and delayed. And because they were not ready, they missed their moment. God is saying to you today, do not miss this shift. What you have prayed for is now at your doorstep. What you have labored for is now within reach. The time of waiting is over, but the question is, are you prepared to step into what you have been waiting for? This shift will require something from you. It will require a new mindset, a new level of faith, a new posture of obedience. You cannot carry old habits into a new season. You cannot walk in new authority with an old mentality. What worked in the last season will not be enough for this one. You must be ready to move, ready to rise, ready to step into the unknown. This is not the time to waver. This is not the time to question whether you are worthy, whether you are capable, whether you are prepared. If God has spoken the shift, then He has already equipped you for it. If He has called you, then He has already qualified you. The shift is not dependent on your ability, it is dependent on His sovereignty. You do not have to figure out every detail. You only need to respond. Remember Elijah standing on the mountain as the drought raged, declaring, I hear the sound of an abundance of rain. There was no cloud in sight, no evidence of a shift, no sign of change. But he heard it in the Spirit. And because he believed the sound, he positioned himself for the rain before a single drop ever fell. That is what faith looks like. That is what preparation looks like. That is what readiness looks like. Do you hear the sound of your shift? Do you sense the stirring in your spirit? Do you perceive that what has been held up is now being released? This is the moment to move. This is the hour to act. The opportunity will not wait. The doors will not stay open forever. The window of favor is here, but you must step through it. Everything is aligning. Heaven has spoken. The wait is over. The shift is here. The only question left is, are you ready? There is a divine urgency in this hour, a stirring in the heavens that cannot be ignored. The weight of waiting has been lifted, and now everything is shifting. What once seemed distant is now at hand. What was unclear is now being revealed. The moments of frustration, of questioning, of wondering whether God heard your cries were never wasted. They were the fires of refinement, the pressures that strengthened your foundation, the waiting that deepened your trust. And now the season of pressing is giving way to the season of fulfillment. The shift has come, but it requires your participation. You cannot afford to move forward with the mindset of yesterday. You cannot step into new doors while clinging to old fears. When God declares a shift, He is not just moving circumstances, He is moving you. He is reshaping you, transforming you, pulling you into alignment with what He has already prepared. The reason some never experience the fullness of their shift is not because God did not release it, but because they refused to let go of the things that kept them bound to the past. The old way of thinking must go. The fear of failure must be broken. The hesitation, the doubt, the excuses, they cannot come with you. The weight of the past must be lifted, because where God is taking you, you cannot afford to be slow, burdened, or hesitant. Consider the Israelites standing before the Red Sea, with the enemy behind them and the unknown ahead. Fear would have told them to turn back, to surrender, to return to the familiarity of Egypt, even though it was a place of bondage. But when God shifts, the way forward is not through logic or comfort, it is through faith. When Moses stretched his staff, the waters parted. The shift was not in the circumstances alone, it was in their willingness to walk through what they had never walked through before. The sea had never been a pathway, but when God shifts, He creates ways where there were none. You are about to walk through something you have never walked through before. God is making a way in the wilderness, rivers in the desert, doors in places that once seemed impenetrable. Do not stand at the shore of your promise and hesitate. Move forward. The enemy would love nothing more than to keep you distracted, discouraged, and disconnected at the very moment of your breakthrough. He thrives in the waiting seasons, whispering lies that make you doubt the very thing God has promised you. But his greatest weapon is deception. He wants you to believe that nothing is changing, that God has overlooked you, that your prayers have fallen on deaf ears. But if you could only see in the spirit what is happening around you, you would understand why the warfare has been so intense. The attack increased because the shift was near. The resistance became stronger because the enemy knew you were stepping into something greater. But his attacks are proof that you are on the verge of something divine. What you must understand is that this shift is not just about you. It is about the purpose God has placed within you. It is about the people connected to your obedience, the generations that will be transformed because of your decision to move forward. Your shift is not just personal, it is prophetic. When Joseph stepped into his destiny, it was not just for himself. It was for his family, for the future of an entire nation. When Esther was positioned in the palace, it was not for her own comfort, but for the salvation of her people. The shift is bigger than you. That is why you cannot afford to waver. That is why you must be ready. The fulfillment of your assignment depends on your willingness to embrace what God is doing now. Some will miss their shift because they are still waiting for a sign, still asking God for another confirmation, still expecting things to look a certain way before they move. But God does not always shift in the way we expect. He does not always give us all the details before He calls us to step forward. The disciples had to leave their boats before they fully understood the weight of their calling. Abraham had to leave his homeland before he saw the promised land. Obedience comes first, revelation follows. Right now you are being called into a season where faith must lead. You cannot afford to analyze your way out of this moment. You cannot let fear dictate your next move. This is the time to act, to step, to move into the unknown with the confidence that God has already gone before you. If you wait until everything makes perfect sense, you will remain where you are. If you wait until every resource is in place, every obstacle is removed, every question is answered, you will delay what God has already released. The provision is in the movement. The breakthrough is in the obedience. The shift has come, but only those who respond to it will walk in it. There are things that will only be unlocked when you step out. There are doors that will only open when you approach them. There are miracles that will only manifest when you move in faith. The woman with the issue of blood did not receive her healing by standing still. She had to push through the crowd, reach out, and touch what seemed beyond her grasp. Blind Bartimaeus had to cry out despite those who told him to be silent. Peter had to step onto the water before he could experience the supernatural. There is always a moment of action that separates those who step into the shift from those who remain in the cycle of waiting. Which one will you be? Everything around you is aligning. The favor is set. The doors are positioned. The opportunities are within reach. But God will not drag you into your next season. He will open the way, but you must walk through it. Some have prayed for change, but are afraid to embrace it when it comes. Some have asked for breakthrough, but hesitate when it requires them to leave their comfort zone. The shift is here, but it will take courage to move with it. Too often, people miss their shift because they are looking for it in the wrong place. They expect it to come with grand announcements, with flashing signs, with everything neatly arranged before them. But divine shifts rarely happen that way. When God told Abraham to leave his homeland, He did not give him a full map. When Jesus called Peter to step out of the boat, He did not tell him how many steps he could take before the waves began to rise. When God sent Elijah to the widow in Zarephath, He did not reveal that her last meal would become the beginning of an unending supply. Shifts require trust. They require movement. They require you to believe beyond what you can see. What many fail to realize is that waiting can become a habit. When you have been in a season of delay for so long, you can become comfortable with the waiting. You can become so accustomed to preparing that you forget to step into what has already been prepared. But when God declares that the wait is over, it is a dangerous thing to remain where you were. The children of Israel spent years wandering in the wilderness, always moving but never advancing, circling the same mountains, rehearsing the same complaints, waiting for the promise but never stepping into it. When the moment finally came to cross over, some still hesitated, some still doubted, some still feared. And because they were unwilling to embrace the shift, they never saw the fullness of what God had planned. This is why discernment is so critical in this hour. You must recognize the timing of God. You must perceive the moment when the door is open, when the window of favor is before you. The opportunity will not always wait. The shift will not always remain. When God sends an invitation to step into something new, it is not a suggestion, it is a summons. And those who delay in responding often find that the moment passes them by. There are people who will resist the shift because they are attached to the familiarity of where they have been. They will fight to hold on to old seasons, old relationships, old assignments that no longer carry the grace they once had. But when God shifts, everything that is not aligned with His new direction must be left behind. There are doors that will only open when you let go of what you have been holding on to. There are blessings that will only be unlocked when you release the things that no longer serve you. The hesitation to move forward is often tied to an unwillingness to release the past. But what you refuse to let go of can become the very thing that keeps you from stepping into your next level. The disciples had to leave their nets. Elisha had to leave his plow. Ruth had to leave Moab. You cannot enter a new season carrying the baggage of the last one. When God says it is time to move, there is no room for second guessing. There is no space for divided loyalty. The double-minded will always waver, caught between the comfort of the known and the uncertainty of the new. But those who are ready, those who are willing to move when God says move, will experience the fullness of what He has promised. One of the greatest tactics of the enemy is to convince you that the shift is not real. He will try to make you believe that nothing is changing, that everything is the same, that the struggle will never end. He wants you to stay stuck in a mindset of waiting, to keep postponing your faith, to keep delaying your obedience. He knows that if he can keep you doubting, he can keep you from moving. But the devil is a liar. When God declares a shift, no power in hell can stop it. The only thing that can hold you back is your own refusal to step into it. This is a season of divine acceleration. What would have taken years will happen in months. What seemed impossible will suddenly become your reality. Things that were stuck will begin to move. Delays will break, cycles will end. But only those who are aligned, only those who are postured in faith will walk in the manifestation of it. If you hesitate, if you allow fear to hold you back, if you wait for perfect conditions, you will find yourself watching others walk into what you were meant to have. This is not the time for hesitation. This is not the time for questioning whether you are ready. If God has brought you to this moment, then He has already made you ready. If He has spoken the shift, then He has already given you the grace to step into it. Your job is not to figure out how everything will work. Your job is to obey. Your job is to move. Your job is to step into what He has already set in motion. Some of you have been waiting for another confirmation, another sign, another voice to tell you that it's time. But you do not need another sign. The sign is already here. The word has already been spoken. The shift has already begun. Now the only question is whether you will move with it or whether you will remain in the safety of what is familiar. It is time to rise. Time to step into the unknown. Time to walk through the doors that have been set before you. Fear has no place in this season. Doubt has no authority in your life. The enemy has no control over what God has already released. All that is required is your obedience. All that is needed is your willingness to step forward. There is a reason you have been feeling the pull, the stirring, the urgency in your spirit. There is a reason why things that once satisfied you no longer do. There is a reason why old cycles are breaking, why old mindsets are being challenged, why you cannot remain where you once were. It is because you were never meant to stay there. You were never meant to live in the waiting forever. The waiting had a purpose, but that purpose has now been fulfilled. Now is the time to move. Do not allow fear to talk you out of what God has already prepared. Do not let doubt rob you of what has been set before you. Do not allow complacency to keep you stuck when you were meant to soar. The season has changed. The shift is here. The waiting is over. Now, it is up to you to step into it. There comes a time when God does not ask for your permission to shift you. He simply does it. He orchestrates circumstances. He realigns situations. He closes doors that were once wide open and forces you to face the reality that where you have been is no longer where you belong. Some shifts are gradual, like the changing of the seasons, where the temperature slowly rises or falls. But then there are moments like this, divine, sudden, undeniable. These are the moments where everything changes overnight, where what was once delayed is suddenly in front of you, where what seemed unreachable is now within your grasp. And the question is not whether God is moving. The question is whether you are ready to move with Him. Too often when the shift comes, people hesitate. They wrestle with the call to step forward. They allow their own insecurity to convince them that they are not prepared, that they are not qualified, that they are not worthy of what God is calling them into. But the shift is not about your qualifications. It is about His sovereignty. When He declares that your waiting is over, it means He has already factored in your weaknesses, your past, your shortcomings. It means He has already calculated what you lack and has determined that His grace is enough. You do not need to have all the answers before you step forward. You simply need to trust that if God says move, then the provision, the favor, and the strength will be there when you need it. There is a danger in being so accustomed to waiting that you do not recognize when it is time to walk. Some people have spent so long in preparation that they have mistaken it for permanence. They have settled into a posture of one day, of when the time is right, of when everything aligns. But divine shifts do not wait for your perfect conditions. They require faith. They require obedience. They require a willingness to step out even when the details are unclear. The people who walk in the fullness of their purpose are not the ones who have it all figured out. They are the ones who refuse to let fear stop them. When God says the wait is over, it does not always come with loud announcements. Sometimes it is simply a subtle shift in your spirit, a divine restlessness, an inner knowing that where you are is no longer where you are supposed to be. You start feeling uncomfortable in spaces that once felt familiar. You start feeling the pull toward things you never considered before. And if you are not careful, you will dismiss it. You will tell yourself it is just a passing feeling, just a moment of temporary frustration. But it is more than that. It is the Spirit of God pushing you, calling you, telling you that the time of preparation is over and the time of manifestation has come. This is why prayer is crucial in a season of transition. You must stay sensitive to what God is saying. You must tune your ear to His voice, drown out the noise of opinions, and silence the distractions that try to keep you from hearing Him clearly. Because when God moves, the enemy will try to create confusion. He will try to make you question whether you really heard from God. He will send distractions, delays, and disruptions to make you second-guess the shift. He will use people to plant seeds of doubt. He will try to make you cling to what is familiar out of fear of the unknown. But this is the moment when your faith must be stronger than your feelings. This is the moment when you must trust that God does not mislead His people. If He says go, then go. If He says step, then step. If He says the wait is over, then act like it. The enemy would love for you to be so overwhelmed by uncertainty that you fail to move at all. He would love for you to spend so much time analyzing the shift that you never step into it. But delayed obedience is still disobedience. Some doors do not stay open forever. Some opportunities have an expiration date. Some divine moments require a response, not a debate. If you keep waiting for the perfect conditions, you will find yourself missing what was already given. If you keep waiting for another sign, you will look back and realize that the sign was there all along. Consider the story of Peter. When Jesus called him out onto the water, he did not have time to overthink. He did not have time to analyze whether the water would hold him up. He had a moment, an invitation, a divine opportunity to step into the supernatural. And as long as he kept his eyes on Jesus, he walked. As long as his faith led him, he moved in something that defied logic. But the moment he became distracted, the moment he allowed fear to creep in, he began to sink. The lesson is clear. When God calls you to step, do not let fear make you sink before you even start. Keep your eyes on Him. Keep your faith engaged. Keep moving forward. Some of you are on the edge of the greatest breakthrough of your life, but you are still standing at the shore, wondering if the water will hold you. You are still waiting for another confirmation, another reassurance, another word, but you do not need another sign. The time is now. The shift has already happened. The season has already changed. The only thing left to do is step into it. You do not have time to hesitate. You do not have time to remain in cycles of doubt. You do not have time to waste another day waiting for what has already been released. The heavens have shifted. The door is open. The way has been made, but it is up to you to walk through it. Do not let fear talk you out of what you have been praying for. Do not let doubt steal what has already been given. Do not let hesitation rob you of the promise that is already within reach. There are moments in time when God does not simply suggest movement, He commands it. These are the moments when the weight of delay is lifted, when the chains of stagnation are broken, and when the voice of heaven speaks with urgency. When God says your waiting is over, it is not a mere encouragement. It is a divine decree. It is a command that what was once withheld must now be released, that what was once locked must now be opened, that what was once delayed must now be accelerated. And when that command is spoken, the only appropriate response is action. Many have been in a season of waiting so long that they have begun to mistake the process for the promise. They have settled into the routine of hoping, of praying, of preparing, but they have not yet shifted into the reality of possession. They have been trained to endure, trained to persevere, trained to trust in God's timing, but they have not been trained to step into what has already been made available. There is a fine line between patience and passivity, between waiting on God and refusing to move when He says the wait is over. If you are not careful, you can become so comfortable in the posture of waiting that you resist the moment when God tells you to arise. There is nothing wrong with waiting when waiting is the assignment. But when God declares that the season has shifted, lingering in a place of delay is no longer faith, it is disobedience. The Israelites spent 40 years wandering in the wilderness, circling mountains they were never meant to stay near, living in a temporary place as though it were permanent. And when the moment of transition came, not all of them were ready. Not all of them could see the new thing God was doing. Some still had a wilderness mindset, even when they were standing on the edge of the promised land. A shift requires a new mindset. You cannot walk into a new season with an old way of thinking. You cannot embrace what is ahead if you are still bound by what is behind. When God says move, there is no time for doubt, no time for hesitation, no time for second guessing whether you are ready. He does not call those who are already perfect. He perfects those He calls. He does not wait for you to feel qualified. He qualifies you as you walk in obedience. If you wait until you feel fully prepared, you will miss the moment. If you wait until you have all the answers, you will miss the opportunity. The enemy thrives on hesitation. He knows that if he can keep you in a place of questioning, he can keep you in a place of delay. He will whisper lies, telling you that you are not ready, that you need more time, that you need more resources, that you need another confirmation. But God has already spoken. The doors have already been opened. The way has already been made. The only thing left is for you to step into what He has prepared. There are people who pray for change but resist it when it comes. They ask God for breakthrough, but when it arrives, they shrink back in fear. They ask for elevation, but when the door opens, they doubt whether they can walk through it. This is why faith is required. You cannot possess what you do not believe is yours. You cannot step into a new dimension if you are still attached to an old one. The process was necessary. The waiting was not wasted. Every delay, every hardship, every moment of testing, it was all a part of what God was shaping in you. But there is a time when the preparation must give way to the fulfillment. There is a time when what was once a prophecy must become a reality. And that time is now. There is no longer need to wait for what has already been released. There is no longer a need to postpone what God has called you to do. The challenge with a shift is that it often requires leaving something behind. Some people cannot embrace the new because they are still clinging to the old. They want the promise, but do not want to leave their comfort zone. They want the blessing, but do not want to release what is familiar. But every great move of God requires a sacrifice. Abraham had to leave his homeland. Moses had to leave Pharaoh's house. Ruth had to leave Moab. There is always something that must be left behind in order to step into what God has prepared. What are you holding on to that is keeping you from moving forward? What mindsets, what relationships, what habits, what fears are standing in the way of your shift? God is not asking you to figure it all out. He is asking you to trust Him. He is not asking you to know every detail. He is asking you to obey. The problem is not whether God is ready to move. The problem is whether you are willing to follow Him when He does. There is an urgency in the Spirit. This is not a season for delay. This is not a season for complacency. This is not a season for waiting on something that has already been given. The shift is happening now. Doors are opening now. Miracles are manifesting now. The favor that was once held up has been released now. And if you are not careful, you will miss it because you are still looking for what is already here. Faith requires movement. If you truly believe that your waiting is over, your actions must reflect it. Your decisions must align with what God has spoken. Your steps must match the shift that has already taken place in the Spirit. You cannot declare that your waiting is over and still live as though you are in delay. You cannot claim that God has opened doors and still refuse to walk through them. There is a time to wait and there is a time to act. This is not a time for hesitation. This is not a time for playing it safe. This is a time for boldness, for stepping forward, for embracing the new without fear. The opportunities that are in front of you are not random. They are not coincidences. They are divinely orchestrated moments set in place by God for such a time as this. If you do not move now, You may find that the window does not remain open forever. Some shifts are once in a lifetime, some moments are not repeated. Some doors, if not walked through now, will not be available later. This is not to instill fear, but to stir urgency. God is calling you higher. He is calling you forward. He is calling you into something greater than what you have known. And the only thing standing between you and the fulfillment of His promise is your willingness to move. Let go of fear. Let go of hesitation. Let go of the need to control every detail. Trust that if God says your waiting is over, then everything you need has already been provided. Trust that if He is calling you forward, He has already gone before you. Trust that the shift is not coming, it is here. Do not wait any longer. Do not hold back another day. Do not allow uncertainty to rob you of what is already yours. Step into it. Move forward. Embrace the shift. The time is now. Everything you have been through has led to this moment. Every delay, every disappointment, every lesson, every hardship. It was all preparation. Nothing was wasted. Nothing was in vain. The tears, the struggles, the waiting, it was all working together to bring you to this place. And now the waiting has come to an end. Now it is time to move. Now it is time to walk into what God has spoken. Some will watch and wonder how you moved so quickly. Some will question how things shifted in your favor so suddenly. But they do not know the years you spent in preparation. They do not know the nights you cried out in frustration, the prayers you whispered when no one was watching, the sacrifices you made when no one understood. But God saw it all. And now He is bringing the increase. Now He is opening the doors. Now He is shifting you into the fulfillment of what He promised. The enemy is terrified of your next step. He knows that once you step into this shift, you will never be the same. He knows that once you step into this new level, you will walk in authority, in power, in divine acceleration. That is why the attacks have been so fierce. That is why the warfare has been so intense. But it was never meant to break you. It was meant to prepare you. It was meant to strengthen you for what is coming. You have prayed for this. You have prepared for this. You have waited for this. And now it is here. The shift has come. The waiting is over. The time is now. The only question that remains is, will you step into it?